Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody's well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, and I hope your week is going well so far this week as well. We've got lots of folks here having a little bit of chat back and forth in the chat already tonight. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a bit of a lively night and lots to talk about. So yeah, I'm sure you'll have seen from the thumbnail and from the title tonight, I wouldn't say I was given a response to what Scott MINIAC, as he's also known, said in his video about AOS. But I watched the video the other day, and there was something that he kind of said struck a chord with me, and I think he's got a point. I'm not saying I agree with everything that he says in the video, but yeah, there's a specific point, and that's what I want, that triggered something that I want to talk about tonight. But we'll start by saying hello to folks in the chat, see who we've got. If you're new here, please make sure that you say hello so we can see who we've got tonight. If you've never said hello before, if you've never chatted in the chat before, if you're a secret lurker just hiding there in the background, then yeah, come and say hello for the first time. So Super Pumpkin Man was in super early, about 7 hours ago. Hello, buddy, how you doing? We got Clyde dashing in as well. Nice to see you in, nice and early as well. We got Blair in. Good evening, Blair. Type 40 TARDIS is in. Skullduggery, nice to see you as well. Christian, hello, fella, how are you doing? We've got Dan Pillow saying hello to everyone. Yoakum, good evening to you, mate. Camo saying good morning. We got Colin Wakelin, Coffee and Pistachio as well, saying good evening. Hope you are all doing well. I hope you're all doing well too. We got Sarah Kissing. Good evening, Sarah. Wayne Haywood saying hello as well. John Estel, he said he's got some rats on the table and he's ready to paint. Nice one, mate. We've got Dave Mackay. Good evening to you, mate. We've got Dave in as well saying I missed his video, but I'll fast forward through it now. Don't worry too much, mate. I'll kind of give a bit of a recap, so don't worry if you haven't seen it. VJ, good morning to you, sir. Hope you're well. Colin Mack said he's on the exercise bike. There's not a lot of exercise happening here at the moment, mate. In fact, I'm having a pint of Guinness. So yeah, I won't be doing any exercise tonight. Deep Red, hail and well met, he says hello to you as well. Jez Hunt, hello fella, how you doing? We've got Cleo in as well, saying hello, folks. We've got Carrie in as well. Nice to see you in, Carrie. Long time no speak. Hexen666 says good evening. The Mark of the Devil. Colin Max has not watched MINIAC's video, not a fan, but he seemed to not like it, I heard. Well, the video, I think his video is AOS a trashed game or something, I think was his official title for the video. So I think he was going for a little bit of the clickbait. Maybe he didn't have time to paint anything this week, so he's decided to go full-on drama farmer this week. Let's have a little look here. Jess says, got your hot spicy takes. You know me, I'm way more balanced than hot spicy takes. We got Louis Duke, says finally made it on time. Nice to see you, Louis. Peter Dickinson says secret lurker, guilty. Nice to see you, Peter. I hope you're doing well. He said back under my rock. Always feel free to come and say hello, mate. It's always nice to hear from folks. Julian Angus is saying evening all, looking forward to this. Me too, mate, me too. Carrie saying he started a new Slanesh army at the weekend, so this topic is interesting to me. It's been years since I played AOS. Interesting. Tony Howell, cooey to you too, mate. I hope you're doing well. Type 40 TARDIS is saying one of my gaming buddies wants to try AOS, so I'm curious on your take. I wouldn't say my take is necessarily AOS specific, but more will be revealed as we go on. Zingbo, good evening to you as well. Said he missed last week's stream. What's the March Painting Challenge? The March Painting Challenge is March to War. So I want to see your painting a unit for a game. I want to see painting a particular soldier or painting some kind of sort of, I don't know, some kind of miniature or diorama or bit of terrain or something like that, that will see you getting your models to the table, or will see your model getting ready for war. So yeah, March to War is March's Painting Challenge. Jason says lifting pints is exercise. It is for one arm anyway. Yeah. Clyde saying it's a health drink. It's not quite a protein shake, but I'll take the extra iron. I could do with that. Yeah, I do like a Guinness. I'm actually in training It is St. Patrick's Day this week, so it also coincides St. Patrick's Day with the day that me and my wife are having a full day and evening out for her birthday. So it's her birthday on Wednesday, but she's got a day off on Friday. The little one's at a babysitter at his grandparents. So we're going to be making a full day and an all night sort of staying over in a hotel. Plenty of Guinness will be drunk. So yes, I'm in training for Paddy's Day. Andrew Fairbanks is saying daylight savings got me late. I forgot that the US times have changed as well. We don't change until I think it's the last Sunday in March. So we've got a few more weeks here in the UK. Cleo saying I'm post-surgery and on heavy medication and I'm going to paint minis under the influence. I hope they turn out all right, mate, but I also hope you're on the mend as well. Andrew says, yes, AOS is a trash game. That's how we like it. And Blair says, drink of the gods. I must admit, when I was younger, I wasn't particularly a fan, but as my taste buds have changed over the years, it's definitely my drink of choice. RG says, evening all, thanks for the kind words last week regarding the painting challenge. And sorry I missed the live stream. No worries at all, mate. That's why they go up there for people to watch after the event. Of course, not everybody can make the live stream. Not everybody wants to come to the live stream. You know, maybe they want to just kind of skim it a little bit in the future, kind of thing. So yeah, these are here for me as much as they are for you. I enjoy doing them. Type 40 TARDIS says, I may have to unearth my unmade flesh eater coats army from my pile of shame. Camo said he's packing rats for a game of firefight tonight. Very nice. Cleo saying happy birthday to your lady. I will pass on your good wishes. And Jez says we're kindly lucky at so many different sorts of games. So if you don't like one, there's plenty of others to try. I could not agree more, mate. That's one of the wonderful things. There was somebody I was chatting to on Facebook over the weekend. I think it was, I forget the lad's name, but he goes by Tabletop Transformer. I've met him at Mantic actually a while ago, and he was saying about how he's not a fan of Marvel Crisis Protocol, the setup needs changing and everything else. And I said, you know what it is? I don't really agree with you. It's like, I find it's fine. It's one of those things. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't play it, kind of thing. Like, life's too short to get upset about the things that we don't like. VJ says, ain't that the truth? Yeah, right, mate. Alex Berry, good evening, mate. How are you doing? He says, my march to war has begun, building my old Dominion figures. So happy to have finished. Now to buy some more to finish off my 750 points for the slow grow. Yeah, we're doing a slow grow campaign at our local games club with Conquest, The Last Argument of Kings by Parabellum. I'm still waiting for my miniatures to be shipped out. Eventually, I'm sure they'll turn up eventually. But yeah, once they do, I can start taking part. I might have a bit of catching up to do though. Peter Kuhlman, good evening to you, mate. Clyde says, was one of the things that bugged me about MINIAC's video. Why are you playing a game you dislike? If you love the minis, there are plenty of rule systems that allow you to use them. I'll kind of touch on that later on. I mean, for me, I think it's... I don't think I could really find the energy to necessarily make a video about something that I don't like very much. I think it's... If you're going to review something, you're like, if somebody sends me a board game to review, and I kind of... And I play the game, and I think that I have some critique about it, I think that's different. That's a review, and I think it's only fair that I give a balanced opinion of pros and cons, the things I liked, the things I didn't like. However, the things I didn't like, maybe they're exactly the kind of things that you like playing. So that's why I think when it comes to a review, it's fair to kind of give those kind of ups and downs. But when it comes to a game that you don't really enjoy, I do find it kind of strange that you'd want to put the effort into making a video about something that you don't enjoy. But each to their own. That's just my own personal taste, really. Somberland, good evening to you as well. He says, Army Painter sent me nearly the whole range of their Game Master stuff and paints for an article in our magazine. Now I have 70 new paints. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. Well, there you go, mate. What a way to start. Peter Dickinson says, anyone waiting on the Mythic Battles Ragnarok Kickstarter to arrive? It's only been 2 years. I'm not worried. Do you know what? There was I'm sure somebody just told me the other day they were waiting for it. I forget who it was now. It might have been Daryl at our local club. or maybe we were just talking about the game. I forget now because we were talking about Kickstarters and things. But no, it's not a game I backed. It's not something I'm not familiar with, other than the fact that I've heard it's a good game, I think. I'm not worried, he says. Clyde says, that's why I like it here. You're too bloody positive. You love what you cover. Contagious. Keeps the mojo going. Do you know what, mate? It's one of those things where, like, I wouldn't say I'm always positive. I try to be positive on stream because I'm a big kind of, I think proponent is the word. I'm a big believer in surrounding yourself with positive things because they'll rub off on you. And I don't tend to watch a lot of the channels that are kind of big into the drama and the negativity and the kind of like I wouldn't like critiquing something is one thing, but just being negative for clicks. I feel that if that was me personally just doing that, I would burn out. I'd become down. I'd become kind of a bit depressed about the whole thing. I just think by constantly talking about negative things, I think it rubs off on you. And it's something that I've just kind of learned as I've got older. I think when I was younger, if I was doing YouTube as like a 25 or 30-year-old, I might have done this very differently. I might have been going after the clicks. I might have been going after the big numbers. I might have been trying to sort of create a bit of drama just to kind of to make it go. But I just find that as I've got a bit older, as I'm a bit more kind of laid back, a bit more mellow these days, life's too short to kind of surround yourself with the stuff that you don't enjoy. Like I don't know. I'm just getting old. That's all it is. You'd very rarely get me kind of spending a long time talking about the things that I don't enjoy. I mean, of course, I'll kind of touch on things and stuff, and like if somebody says, "What do you think about XYZ games?" or something like that, and I go, "Oh, I've tried it. It's not really my kind of thing. These are the reasons why it doesn't really gel for me." But I'm not the kind of person to just be overtly like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen. What an absolute piece of garbage!" I just concentrate on the stuff that you enjoy. That's the best way to do it. Andrew said, I think he wants the Warhammer keyword traffic, but doesn't like 40k. Quite possibly. Although, to be fair, 40k would have got him more views. But he plays AOS, so, and we'll talk about all that stuff later on anyway. Jess says, I buy GW minis occasionally, no interest in the actual rules, but I keep finding other rules I do like that I can use them in. Yeah, I think that's similar to what Clyde was saying before. Major Tom, good evening, Ed. How are you doing? Master of Dungeons says, AOS first edition was absolutely trash. When it came out, I was so disappointed, and like many, saw the death of my Dark Elves. But since the tail end of second and third, it's vastly improved. I think it depends upon your expectations. Like, I would never say any game is trash. I think that's kind of like, that's like saying you might as well have not bothered writing this thing. Nobody likes it. It's absolutely garbage kind of thing. Where I just think it's just, it wasn't the game that ex-Warhammer Fantasy players were expecting it to be. And I think what GW were trying to do when AOS first come out is to try and create a more casual game, I would say, maybe less competitive than, because Fantasy had certainly become that way. Like, they were trying to create a game that really was, let's be honest, it was to sell miniatures. So the idea was, let's not have any points in the game. Therefore, list building's dead easy. You can just field whatever models you like. People will buy models. And there's an element of that I can kind of get behind. There are games now where the list building is really take what you like. There's no points included. God Tier is a prime example. No points in God Tier. If you take a look at Guild Ball didn't have any points. What's the other one I'm thinking of as well? Moonstone doesn't have any points. So there are games out there that are not like list building in the traditional sense of you have 2,000 points, let's build an army kind of thing. So I get what they were trying to do. I just think it's one of those things where if it was a different company released the game, I think a lot of people would have saw a lot of fun in it, in the same way a lot of people like kind of Frostgrave and stuff, because it's a little bit alternative, it's a little bit different. I just think that because it was Games Workshop, because it was the follow-up to Warhammer Fantasy Battles, their audience expected one thing and didn't get it. I think that was where it kind of like sort of fell over a little bit, but it doesn't make it necessarily a bad game. Where are we up to here? Eddie Hart says, I've tons of Warhammer, even have unopened new 40k guard box, but can't bring myself to bother. So many games out there with a lack of time to focus on those. Wow, mate, wow. Jet says, Eddie Hart, find other rules and use them. Put your pile to its destiny. You don't always have to play with your miniatures, believe it or not. I mean, there's a whole world out there of just painting stuff, just building and painting. Like, scale modelers don't worry about having rules to play games, and people who build kind of RAF planes and tanks and stuff like that, like, not everybody like plays games. So sometimes you've got to cut yourself some slack. Like, if you're not finding the time to play a game, or you don't particularly like the game that the miniatures are for, so what? Just have some fun. Just enjoy building and painting your minis. Zingbo says, I agree with you. This is my hobby. It's supposed to be fun. Completely agree, mate. If something in it annoys me, I try just to not engage too much with it. Some people seem to obsess over what has angered them. Why do that? I am a firm believer in that, mate. It's something I try to kind of... It's not easy to do. It's quite a difficult thing in life to be able to kind of switch your brain off from the, like, if you're having a particularly bad day, like for example, if you're driving your car, you're on your way to work, and let's say somebody bumps into your car, right? You have an accident, and it's nobody's hurt, everybody's fine, but the car's a bit of a mess. You can choose to kind of obsess and get frustrated about that, and get annoyed about it, and think, oh, I've got to ring the insurance company, and I've got to do this and that, and I won't be able to go to such and such place tonight. And you can get yourself all wound up and kind of in a bit of a fluster about that kind of stuff, or you can kind of take a step back and say, you know what, I can't change this, right? There's nothing I could have done to change this situation. Somebody's bumped into my car. It's happened now. I can choose to kind of obsess about it, or I can choose to just accept it is what it is, and I'm going to focus on trying to sort of focus on the happy things. We're getting all deep and philosophical now, and it's easy to say. But if you actually, even if every so often you manage to do that, and within your hobby world and stuff like that, like if you're like interested in a game and people are like sort of dumping on it, or people are like arguing about it, or there's a load of drama about it, you can choose to not engage in that. You can choose to not reply to a message. You can choose to not dive into that conversation, and you will find that you're just generally in a better mood for not doing it. I don't know why some folks feel the need to kind of like to dive down that rabbit hole of anger and confrontation, but yeah, it's not really my style. Bill making stuff, good evening to you, sir. How are you doing, Bill? Skulldoggy says, from time to time I come across channels that seem to be way too focused on things they don't like. I try to avoid those. I don't have time for that. The thing is, unfortunately, we live in a world now where that is a very good marketing tool, and even if sometimes people don't feel that strongly about it, like a video of me saying what I hate and what really annoys me, even though I don't really hate anything, would do better than me making a video about something that I really love. People like to see anger, and people like to see confrontation. Like nobody wants to see kind of like me going, oh, I really like this game kind of thing. Well, I'm sure some people do, but more people want to see me like sort of talking about negative stuff. And unfortunately, that's what's happened with YouTube and Twitter and all of that kind of stuff. VG says, I don't think Scott was being negative for clicks. He was talking about Warhammer specifically for clicks, probably, but his criticisms were valid. Agree or disagree, they were still very relevant. I think it depends, mate. Relevant is a scale, I think. They were maybe relevant to him, but with more information, with more knowledge, more games under his belt, maybe they're not valid for everybody kind of thing. They were valid to him about how he feels at the minute, and I'm not saying that he was being sort of negative for clicks, but potentially he was. Yeah, he seemed frustrated, shall we say? That's not what my video is about tonight. I'm not really talking specifically about him and what necessarily, like, why he got to that stage, if you like. But I sensed frustration from him. I sensed that basically there's just something about it that he wanted to kind of get off his chest a bit. And I think when you've got a big audience, I mean, Scott's got nearly 350,000 subscribers. When you've got a big audience, that then instantly, no matter what you talk about, people are going to see it, and it's going to kind of spread far and wide, isn't it? Jess says, evening, Mr. Making Stuff. Eddie saying, remember when AOS came out, there was that viral video of a guy burning his Warhammer army. He was in my game group here in Louisiana. Was he really? I think he was burning it when the end times came, wasn't it? When they killed off AOS. And when they killed off Warhammer Fantasy. And I'm not sure, I can't remember. I don't think they announced Age of Sigmar straight away when they basically killed off Warhammer Fantasy. It's kind of, it feels like the blurry past now. I can't remember really. Andrew saying AOS 1 wasn't trash, it was just unbalanced and usually needed a game or two to make it even. I think the point of it was, mate, it was never really meant to be even. It was meant to get back to the ethos of people just getting together, having fun and rolling dice, I think. And I think it was very much like, it was very utopian in its ideas of like, this is what we'd love to see. But I think it was, what I would say, it wasn't necessarily created by a company like GW now wouldn't make that same game. But I think GW back then were maybe that little bit more insular, didn't really interact with the community the way they do now, and were maybe building something that the people in the games team wanted to play, not necessarily what the wider Warhammer community wanted to play. And I think that was maybe one of the things. Colin says, was not a fan of AOS, so I went to Kings of War and have never been happier. I played quite a bit of AOS back in kind of, I think from roughly the point when the General's Handbook came out, so still first edition, but not sort of making it into second edition yet. But when it was after General's Handbook come out, so 2017 I think that came out, and I played quite a bit back then, and I quite enjoyed it. But it wasn't like, I wouldn't say it was the best game I'd ever played. It's still, by today's standard, not the best game I've ever played, but I enjoyed it. Like, I don't remember it being awful. Hexon says, just had Tenori's Adventures arrive. 3 years since I paid for it on Kickstarter. It was the first Kickstarter I back. Wow. Camo says, did you see Honest Wargamers response and interview videos? I did, mate. Yes, I did. Andrew says, it wasn't bad at 1.5 when General's Handbook introduced points again. Yeah, that's roughly when I got involved in it, but it wasn't because of that. It was just timing wise, that was at the point when I picked it up. Christian sharing a link there for the Patreon as well. Thank you very much, mate. If anybody would like to support me via Patreon, it is very much appreciated. Ed says the problem with both core Hammer games and to some extent Kings of War 2 is that they've not really moved away from 80s mechanics. I wouldn't disagree with that, mate. I mean, there's an element of Kings of War was written by somebody that was an ex-GW person in Alessio Cavatore, and so maybe his game development and back then his game design sort of theories sort of stemmed from that. Maybe he was trying to create a bit of a rival to Warhammer Fantasy. Maybe he was trying to create the game that he wanted to create for Games Workshop, but maybe he wasn't given the free rein to do so. I think there's a lot of games that are still potentially sort of stuck in old game design ideas, and I think 40k maybe suffers from that a little bit, in terms of the core of 40k has to pretty much stay the same. That's what its audience expects, and they're trying to kind of layer maybe more modern ideas, things like with the stratagems and stuff like that. They're trying to layer that kind of stuff onto it. It's those kind of things that maybe give the game a bit more flavour. They also make it much more difficult to perceive perfect balance. Whether the balance is there or not, there's so many moving parts, it's hard to kind of prove one way or the other. But I think what happens is, as newer games come out, basically designed from the ground up by people that have come like generations of playing games, but have never been stuck in that GW mindset. They come up with different ideas. Like if you look at games like Malifaux, for example, games like Infinity, games like Moonstone, like Marvel Crisis Protocol, they have very different game styles, and it's very evident that they haven't necessarily kind of used GW as an influence. Jez is saying, hit that like button, folks. I can't even see from here, my eyesight's shot. I think we've got 34 likes and 85 people, and I'm sure we can squeeze a few more out. Super Pumpkin says, I've said before, the reason AOS disappointed me was the lack of Tomb Kings. I'm surprised they never made some kind of an appearance, but I guess they were trying to move away from the old world, weren't they? Yeah, Type 4 Todd is saying something very similar about his 2 armies with Tomb Kings and Bretonnians. John on Tabletop, good evening, John. How are you doing, sir? He says, I end up collecting armies for games I have rare or zero opportunity or desire to play, but I'm more of a scale model enjoyer, so I don't have that need to game itch as bad. I don't think you're alone in that, mate. I think there's probably, if I can be really kind of pedantic's maybe not the right word, but if I can be really broad brushstrokes here, there's kind of 3 types of people, isn't there? There are people who are just painters and just enjoy painting the models. There are people that are just gamers, and they're really, if they are painting, they're really just painting to get it to the table because they're more interested in playing. And then there's the vast majority of people probably stuck in the middle across this kind of spectrum of, at one end, those that kind of want to game more often than they do but are really trying to get more games in. And those at the other end who maybe have some idea of gaming at one time in the next sort of 12 months, but probably are never going to play. But we'll still keep buying lots and lots of starter sets with this kind of mentality of, I'll play that, you know, I will play that. Never ever get into it. But I think everybody kind of fits into that kind of scale somewhere, with the vast majority in that big centre section. Let's have a little look here. John saying, engaging with the haters leads to anger. Anger leads to malice. You know what, mate? You're not wrong. I remember, like, during like the lockdown and stuff like that, when I was stuck at home, not getting out, not interacting face to face with people, just being force-fed kind of mainstream news all the time about how bad the world is, how bad everything is. Seeing people kind of just arguing with each other on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. It really affected me. It kind of got me down a bit. And I didn't realise at the time that all I was doing was just absorbing other people's negative energy. And it sounds all very hippie and very arty-farty kind of thing. But I tell you what, it's a real thing. If you surround yourself with negative stuff, you'll become a negative person. If you surround yourself with positivity, it's like going to a comedy show, for example, right? If you're sitting around with other people who are laughing and having a good time, you will generally find that you're laughing along and having a good time. It's why live comedy works really well. If you go to a concert and you're surrounded by people kind of singing and dancing and enjoying the music, you will generally kind of join in and enjoy the music too. It's one of those things that you kind of you absorb emotion by osmosis, really, and that's why social media is so dangerous as well as kind of so useful, really. Dave saying, dude, the game has mushroom goblins, trolls and orcs in it. What more do you want? Peter says, you don't have to move away from 1980s mechanics if the game is still fun. Completely agree, mate. I just think that there's more than one way to skin a cat, and some people enjoy the older style mechanics and some people kind of, it just doesn't gel for them. And it's nice to see that we don't just have every game replicating what's gone before it. We're starting to get innovation in games now. That's the kind of point I was making. I wasn't suggesting that they weren't fun. Peter says, I know there's little new in Kings of War, but I still love that game. It's a very streamlined version, I think, of what's gone before it, and that doesn't make it a bad thing. Jess says, I'm building a goblin army with trolls and mushrooms for Kings of War. GW rules are too crunchy for my soft brain. I think there's definitely an element of sort of how much brain space you have available to kind of dedicate to games and stuff as well. It's definitely a big deal. One of the things that Scott talks about in his video really is about the, I wouldn't say the bloat, which he does mention, but just how like even like the list building he finds quite difficult and quite convoluted. Now I'm sure not everybody feels the same way, but he certainly did. Someone says you should do an angry wargaming nerd video. Only your true community knows it's fake, and we'll laugh our asses off when you get 100,000 clicks for it, and then get back to normal a week later. It kind of already happened, and I kind of already proved it, to be fair, when I did the video about about Warhammers killing my channel, really. And I was in a frustrated place, if I'm honest. And of course, when I was saying about Warhammers killing my channel kind of thing, what I meant was that the dominance of Warhammer and the fact that all of the YouTube channels basically pander to the latest things from Warhammer, which basically changes the algorithm. So if you're looking for miniature game and stuff, you get force-fed Warhammer stuff, and anything that isn't Warhammer kind of doesn't get out to people to see it. Like, I'd be happy to get very, very low views if people were just choosing to not watch it. That's one thing. But when people don't even know it's there, when it doesn't even get sent to subscribers necessarily, because they're force-fed with the latest release every weekend, that's kind of what I was talking about. And it came from a place of frustration at the time. But that video, what's it done, about 50,000 views or something now? It just shows that Warhammer combined with a bit of controversy, with a little bit of anger / frustration, drives views. But I know what works. It's just not the kind of stuff I want to make. Shireen J says, good evening, Andy. Sorry, not games related. Just want to give a shout out to my love, Alex Berry, for his birthday on this Wednesday too. Alex, happy birthday, mate. I remember you saying at the club it was your birthday on Wednesday, mate, but I forgot. Sorry, I remember you saying it was your birthday this week, but I didn't realise it was the same day, mate. Well, yeah, my wife's on the 15th as well, so you're in good company, mate. So happy birthday, mate, for Wednesday. No doubt I'll speak to you on Discord or something on your birthday. But yeah, have a good day, mate. And thank you, Shireen, for the nudge. Ed saying AOS had rules based on who has the best moustache, right? It did at the start. There were some unusual things in there, shall we say? Crunchy, not tactical, says Peter. Not great. I haven't played it in a long time, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm in no position to criticize or comment on it, really. Jess is saying I love those sort of rules in games, and I think this was the whole point. I think it was almost a pushback from the GW design. If I remember right, I think Jervis Johnson was big involved with AOS at the time when it first launched, and I think they were really trying to I think they were trying to change the way games were played and cater to a crowd of people, which are probably surprisingly, they're probably the majority of Games Workshop customers. Like, I think the majority of Games Workshop customers are not really kind of like tournament players, or are probably not really like regular players. They're probably folks that maybe have a game once every 3 or 4 months, and those kind of rules are probably exactly the kind of thing that they're looking for. Speed Demon Painting says, when the guys from the Painting Phase channel interviewed James Hewitt, he pretty much said AOS and 40k are not designed to be great games, just vessels to push a lot of miniatures to gamers. I don't think that's anything kind of new, to be honest. I think we all know that, really. I mean, at the end of the day, they release new models on a frequency far in excess of anybody else, and releasing new models drives new codexes. New codexes drives balance issues, and balance issues then drives a reboot of the system every 3 years, and then we start all over again. And the fact that everything is constantly moving, in the past people wouldn't even think about balance, because like people didn't have access to necessarily speak to such a wide group of people as we do these days when it comes to things like the internet being able to connect communities all over the world. When you've got channels like the Honest Wargamer, who really goes in depth with a lot of kind of stats and that kind of thing, even to the point Games Workshop are starting to come in with those kind of stats now. They've always been a model company. They make money by selling models, and they make some of the best models available. So it's like, I don't think it's new news, but I think it's one of those things that when somebody who works or worked for the company says that kind of thing, it just kind of cements things a bit, doesn't it? And he's also saying the scale of the factions make it impossible to be truly great. I honestly don't think that, like, if you look at their market, the people that buy their models, the vast majority, probably, it's like the 80-20 rule. 20% of the people are really, really competitive, maybe, and the other 80% probably don't care as much and actually don't keep up with kind of buying every single thing that comes out. And all they're really looking for is some nice, cool models to build and paint and maybe get to the table once in a blue moon. I think the problem is that 20% that are maybe the competitive or the maybe not even competitive, but the real kind of like regular gamers, they're the ones that kind of are the most vocal generally. They're the ones that have the most to talk about. Ed saying, when I looked at Kings of War rules, my first thought was that it was really badly wanted to be fantasy battle. Funny thing is, when I started playing, Warhammer was a really innovative system. Yeah, I guess it's I'm obviously not like an old school gamer. Like a lot of the stuff that went before Rogue Trader and stuff, and sort of first, second, third edition fantasy was way before my times, in terms of when I was playing games. But yeah, I mean, I think Kings of War started as a very simple rule set for a company that was trying to sell alternative Warhammer miniatures, and I think it grew out of that. Like, if you remember, it was like, what was it, like 4 pages, 8 pages maximum, something like that, the original kind of Kings of War rules. And I think it was almost like a challenge. I think Alessio was almost like set yourself a challenge to write a fully kind of comprehensive fantasy war game in as little kind of rules as possible. And I think that's an element of really where Kings of War came from. It's saying, I'm a purish gamer, and still my circle of friends contains way more pure painters than players. Yeah, I think most do, mate, to be fair. I think that's what I was saying. I think the vast majority of people are probably painters / casual. And when I say casual, I don't mean necessarily like not competitive, but casual in terms of not playing that often. Alex says, could do with a new starter set, like I heard God Tears, can he? I tell you what, mate, I've been up, as you can see. I forgot to mention, by the way, I'm in the studio today. I'm back in the big room. I'm doing some filming tomorrow, so I had to kind of right. Long story short, what I did was was it I can't even remember when I did the studio upstairs, like the little mini room. This kind of garage, this studio became a bit of a dumping ground. It became a bit of a storage space. And I've got some work this week where I'm doing some filming. And so over the weekend, I've had to kind of empty it all out and get it all back to working as a studio again. So I've had to sort out all my games and all my minis and everything else. So as I'm looking down here at the moment, I've got just 2 full walls of boxes of games and miniatures and all sorts of stuff. So I can see all my God Tier stuff over there. So when you mentioned it, my eyes kind of went up and it's over there. So yes, give God Tier a try. I will give you a game of God Tier, mate. Colin says, when I found Kings of War was the game I wish Fantasy had been. There's a lot of people say that, to be fair. But I think even Fantasy, when it first started, when Kings of War first started, it was really, really stripped back. Like, there wasn't a lot in terms of magic. I think like the only spell that like wizards had was like Zap, which was essentially just like a ranged shot type thing. So even Kings of War has changed a lot over the years. Just the same way I can play games with these wee fellas. Greg Cherry, good evening, mate. He says you're an energy vampire, like what we do in the shadows. I haven't seen what we do in the shadows, mate. I mean, I'm aware of it, but I must admit I've never seen it, so the reference is probably lost on me. Christian saying, get your BlackJack Legacy t-shirts and hoodies. I'm going to, as you can see here, t-shirts, hoodies. I'm going to have a bit of a refresh, I think, of the merch at some point in the future when I get a bit of time and some fresh ideas. I think it's been a while since I've done anything new. Super Punkin Man says, while AOS completely lost my interest at this point, Warcry is great from both a playing point, collecting, and price. I think, interestingly, Warcry is also it can be quite divisive as well, I think. Some people love it, some people hate it. But I think it's also... It's a game that maybe also moves away from traditional Games Workshop rules writing. I think there's no kind of surprise that it was written by new people to Games Workshop. And yeah, I'm a big fan of it just because I like the simplicity of it. And yeah, Super Punky Man saying it allows me to try a bunch of different warbands without spending an insane amount of time and money at each time. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I want to love about Kill Team as well, is that it does kind of follow a little bit of the Warcry model, where you just buy a box now with an army inside, and you can kind of play that in the game now. I've still not got round to playing Kill Team yet, if I'm perfectly honest. Coffee and Pistachio says, sticking to your guns, admirable in the content creator space. Some would say stupid. Some would say never mind what you want to do. Make videos for your audience and make videos that will make you money. That's what people would say when it's a business. However, the way I see it is I'm kind of playing the long game here. I'm very, very fortunate that being able to do this full time affords me time to spend with my family. It affords me the luxury of being able to kind of be a bit more flexible with my work, so that when the little boy, when he's on school holidays or weekends, or if we want to have a holiday together or something like that, it allows me to be very flexible with my schedule. So I'm aware that I'm massively fortunate in that regard. However, if I go down the route of the clickbait negativity stuff, I'll probably see a spike in subscribers, I'll see a spike in income, but I'll burn out and I won't want to do it anymore. And so doing it on my terms might not grow me as fast, and it might not make me as much money, but at least I'm there for the long haul. I'm there for the kind of, for the duration, and I will keep making videos if I keep enjoying it. I've been doing it, I think it's 6 years now in November this year. And I still love doing it. I still love making a video. I still love sitting down to edit it. I still love doing these live streams. And I've been through ups and downs over that time. But generally, I don't see me ending it anytime soon, put it that way. Where I think I probably would. Let's have a little look here. RG saying, complete opposite. I need Andy's challenge to pick up a brush. I'll happily play games with tokens or unpainted minis. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with playing unpainted, to be fair, mate. Alex is looking to enter this month's painting challenge too. It says that'll be the first time. I'm no artist, but I really like the supportive community in here. Alex, I've seen your painting, mate. You've got nothing to be shy about. You're a good painter, lad. Invisible says, hope you're having a good one. I've got orcs, sci-fi, lizards, fantasy, got them based so I can use them in other systems. Problem is getting my friends to try games from other companies. It's a funny one, and it could be a live stream on its own of getting other people to kind of to try stuff. I would maybe play devil's advocate here and say, if they're happy playing what they want to play, why bother trying to convince them otherwise? Maybe try and find people that want to play what you want to play, as opposed to try and convince somebody that they should play your game. There's two sides to it, isn't there? Marco, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Hobbit on hold says, MINIAC is right. Age of Sigmar is pretty naff in its base mechanics. We will see. Marco saying, lovely art on the wall, Malifaux. It's my TV behind me, mate, and it's just that's my screensaver on my computer. It is the Explorers Society for Malifaux. Piece of artwork. I was going to get up and move the camera, but I'm not going to show you. Rob Zung saying, we've made it for part of the chat. Nice to see you, fella. Clyde saying, we know what you're doing. We also know what you're doing if you did the clickbaity stuff. Who knows, mate? Who knows? Hexen said, I stopped playing Kill Team when I found Star Breach and Space Weirdos. Still love Warcry though. AOS isn't something that I've been attracted to. Peter saying, what's the name of this month's painting challenge and how do you enter? So this month's painting challenge, the theme of it is March to War, because of course it is March, and I'm just trying to come up with some kind of sort of loose theme there. And we talk with you. I want you to paint. It might be a unit for a game, for an army that you're building. It might be a couple of models that you're wanting to get to the table. You're wanting them to kind of get to war. You maybe painting a tank if you're into kind of war games, like kind of World War II games or something like that. Maybe you just kind of want to build a bit of a diorama. Whatever it is, it's really, really loose theme, purposefully, so that people can really try and paint what they want to paint, but it just gives them a bit of nudge and a bit of motivation. What I want you to do is, I want you to paint it up, and I want you to email a picture of the finished model. I don't want to see before to prove that you've kind of started it this month. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is convince you to kind of pick up a brush and paint some models. I'm just looking at my phone to get the dates, to make sure I've got the dates right. So the last point, the Sunday, let me just check that date. Yes, it is the Easter Monday, I think, isn't it? So the 2nd of April is the last day. So you need to email your picture to me by Sunday, the 2nd of April. Email it to blackjacklegacy@gmail.com. I'll then collate everybody's pictures together, and then on the following Monday we'll have the community live stream where we take a look at what people have been painting. So that's how to do it. Carrie's saying, thanks for keeping things positive. Negative videos have turned me off the miniature hobby, and I haven't painted in a long time. It's funny, isn't it? It's like, I try to do the positive stuff. It doesn't necessarily do very well, but like I said, I'd have given up if I was doing negative stuff all the time. But it's surprising just the contrast in how well negativity sells. It frustrates me in equal measure. Super Pumpkin Man saying, yeah, I got 6 warbands for Warcry, plan on getting 8 more, but this is also for my friends to play the armies they like. Nice one, mate. Dice Hand Entertainment, good evening to you. Says, good evening. I'd rather buy and play 3 different skirmishes for the cost of getting into a 2,000 point AOS army. Way too many minis needed. Skirmishes are more hobby time efficient and you get variety. So, that is very, very true for you, but not for other people. And this is the bit, like, something I'll come on to later on is I think we sometimes assume that the way we think is the way. This is the way. We sometimes think that that's the way it is for everybody, and I'm not suggesting that's what you think, Dice Hand Entertainment. I think a lot of people kind of like they pass off their opinions as fact sometimes, and whilst I agree, for some people playing skirmish games is definitely what they should be doing, because maybe they've got less time, they don't enjoy painting, they want to just paint kind of individual models as opposed to a full-scale army. For other people, there is nothing better than seeing that full 2,000 point army marching across the table, and just like maybe they paint in a different way to the point where they're batch painting, they're dry brushing, they're trying to kind of rush through it, because seeing the majesty, if you like, of a big full-scale army is the end goal for them. That is where they get their enjoyment. So everybody enjoys it in a different way. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make, really. Christian sharing the link there as well. If you are in the UK and you do shop on Amazon, I do have an affiliate link. You won't spend anything more, but it gets I make a small commission from it. It's a way to support the channel without it costing you any money. So if you do ever shop on Amazon, I know some people are very much against it, but if you are somebody that shops at Amazon, then please do consider doing it through my affiliate link. Dave says, might finish off the halflings, got a couple to go. Get it done, mate. That's the way to do it. Greg saying, there are channels that don't do the negative things that are successful. I've really been enjoying the painting phase. I enjoy the painting phase too. However, not necessarily doing the negative thing, I wouldn't 100% agree with. They are basically, they're doing very well, and I think they're really nice guys, and I enjoy watching the channel myself, but they're certainly kind of, other than their painting videos, which I think are fantastic, they're chat type videos. There's a lot of, I used to work at GW and this is what I found kind of thing, and I think they are catering to, whether intentionally or not, they're catering to those two types of crowd, the GW fanboy and the anti-GW fanboy, and I think both of them are being serviced by some of those kind of GW stories. I'm not saying it's good, bad, indifferent. I enjoy listening to them myself, but I do think there's sometimes maybe only so far you can go just talking about I used to work at Games Workshop stuff. Gary Jensen says, I think Scott's expressing frustration that a game he takes so much time to paint, learn to play, can come down to priority roles. I think the priority role thing, and it's something that that the Honest Wargamer covered as well, is something that if you're relatively new to AOS, the priority role seems like a really big deal. But the more you play the game, the priority role starts to become part of the tactics of the game. And I think if you're somebody that plays it a lot and is, shall we say, proficient at the game, like you're not just like constantly looking at the rules every 5 minutes anymore, the priority role is actually quite interesting. But I think to, shall we say, the novice gamer or somebody that hasn't played a lot of games of AOS, the priority role feels like a massive swing. Alex says, I love the large scale of Conquest battles and the speed of the game. Yeah, and best of speed of skirmish and grandeur of mass battle. I agree, mate. I agree. It's you do have to paint a lot of models, but there's a nice variety in the models. And I think if you're not somebody if you're somebody that doesn't enjoy painting big armies, then don't get into big army games, kind of thing. That's the simple answer, really. But yeah, I do agree with you. I'm not a fast painter, but I do like how those big armies look. It's something I really love about 40k, to be honest. For all I think that the rules are probably a bit too complex for me personally, and I can't really see me kind of taking the time to learn to play it. Like, I like to play games. I'm not necessarily somebody that needs to win every game, but I like to know the rules. I like to feel that I'm confident with the rules and I know what I'm doing. And I don't feel like that 40k as it is at the moment is a game that I personally have the free time to be able to plow into, to play on a regular basis, to be proficient at the game, shall we say. But I do love how the games look. The miniatures are fantastic. I love, like, when you see a game where people have taken a bit of time and put some really nice terrain on the boards and you've got all their armies lined up. There's something really, really nice about the way those games look. Excuse me. Clyde saying, yeah, the painting phase chats are meh. Painting is great though. I quite like the chats, mate. I'll be honest. I always put them on. I tend not to miss them. I haven't listened to this week's yet, but I do find that as they've gone on, there's a whole, like, it's not clickbait, but a lot of the kind of the topic is about this is what happened when I was at GW, kind of thing. I want to see how that kind of sort of filters on over time. Northern Realms, hello mate, how you doing? He says Alex isn't talking about Conquest again, is he? Of course he is, of course. Alex has never tried AOS. Everyone needs to drop this GW nonsense for the wonderful new world of Parabellum Devil, mate. Yeah, is he singing from the choir there, mate? Yeah. Greg says, I enjoy their talk about random topics. Not sure I could put painting phase in same category as discourse. No, and I'm not saying it's negativity. I'm not saying that they're negative by any stretch. I love the idea of the three of them sitting chatting, or when they've got a guest on. And as I say, I love listening to it myself as well. I just find that there's definitely an element of it. It's very much behind the scenes of GW type stuff. And if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. Ed saying painting phase is like Northern Exile without all the I'll take things that never happened for 5,000 please. Yeah, I would agree, mate. I would agree. I'm not that familiar with Northern Exile, but I think I have maybe listened to one or two of his videos over the years. But they're all very much like, there's definitely an element of like, I worked at Games Workshop for a long time, and I've got some stories from behind the scenes, and people are really interested in that. So I completely get why that works. But for me, I think it can. If Peachy wasn't such a kind of like a nice, friendly, affable guy, it could really kind of go the other way into a disgruntled ex-employee basically waves fist at the sky, and it's only the fact that it's Peachy and his personality that saves it from it becoming that, really. Dave says, I always forget rules, that's why I tend to lose badly. Northern Realm saying, on the source, Mara, yes mate, I'm treating myself to a Guinness tonight, mate. Like I was just saying before, I'm going out for my missus's birthday on Friday. A bit of an all day and all evening. We're going for like breakfast to a nice place that we like to go. I can't remember what my wife gets, but I always like it's a kind of like a special occasion breakfast place we go to. This restaurant that opens it for breakfast, and I always have my pancakes with bacon and maple syrup. That's my kind of like my celebration breakfast. We're going to an escape room, like kind of lunchtime-ish. We've booked a restaurant later on to go for some food. We've got a hotel booked in town, so we're having a bit of a night out and some drinks. But of course, it is St. Patrick's Day the same day as well. So I'm just getting in the mood, mate. I'm just warming up beforehand. Dalton, I had enough on Saturday to last me a lifetime. I can't remember the last time I had a proper night out. I'm trying to think. When was it? I don't even. I can't even think when it was. Like when I've had a proper like boozy night out. I've like had a couple of like sort of we've been to like sort of family's house and had a few drinks in the house kind of thing. But I think it was. It might have been last year. That's terrible. That's not good, is it? Where are we up to here? Gary's saying people always say there's more than one way to skin a cat, but never give examples. You could do it front to back, or you can do it back to front. There you go. I've just given you two. Ed says not really familiar with Honest Wargamer. To be honest, I tend not to watch his stuff, not because I don't like him or anything like that, but I tend not to watch it because it's predominantly kind of very data-driven 40k and AOS stuff, and I don't play either of those games, and I don't really understand the games enough for that information to be like useful to me or even intelligible, really. So that's the only reason that I don't really watch his stuff. So I'm not that familiar with it. I'm aware of who he is, but I don't really know. That's the plan, mate. That's the plan. We do hope to have a good time, mate. Just neither can I. That's why it killed me. Captain Aqua says, recently went out for some day drinking. Was home by 9 p.m. with a pizza and a cup of tea. Day drinking over a boozy night out for me. Do you know what, mate? I do love a bit of a day drinking session, I'll be honest. And I was having a chat with one of my sons about this on... what day was it? Was it Sunday? I think it was Sunday. Yeah, it was, because I was watching the Sunderland match at the time. And he'd gone to the pub with his friends. He's at university in Durham, and he'd gone to the pub with his friends, and his brother was coming. My other son was coming from Newcastle, where he's at university. He was going down to Durham and spending the day with him, and their plan was to kind of have a bit of an afternoon drinking session and kind of thing. And it's like, you know what is, now I'm a bit older, I do appreciate a day drinking session, and I'm quite happy to be back home by like 9 o'clock tucked up with a pizza kind of thing, yeah. VJ says, we had a proper night out. We did, mate, we did. Dave says, yeah, drink prep, building it up. It's been a while, mate. I don't want to peak too early and be like pay for a nice hotel and be asleep by 6 o'clock. Daryl saying, I don't mind having a few beers and that, but this was a proper 3 a.m. nightclub jobby. I can't remember the last time I went to a nightclub, mate. God, that's me getting old now, definitely. I spent enough to buy a new Conquest army. Do you know what is? I had this conversation with my wife. So the new series of Mandalorian is obviously on at the moment, series 3. And I was kind of talking about it with my wife, and she went, well, why don't you just get a Disney Plus subscription? Like, why don't you just pay for it kind of thing? And I went, oh, cause I don't really want to pay for it. I'll wait until the series is finished, and then I'll be able to pay for a month, and I'll be able to binge watch it kind of thing and watch it all in one go. And I went, I don't really want to pay for it. And she went, you are joking, aren't you? She went, like, you've just been out, and so I treated myself the other day to one of these Guinness Night Research things. And some of these, the proper cans that you use with them. So these are like £2 a can on offer, and this was 25 quid. It basically gives you a nicer pint at home kind of thing. And she went, you've just spent like £30 on Guinness, on cans of Guinness and this Night Research thing, but you won't spend like a tenner on Disney Plus. And it's like, yeah, you're right. My money equation, my value equation is just gone. Hexen says, I've too much to paint to ever go out. I went out in 1985 and I didn't like it. I like a night out, mate. I just don't do it very often. Daryl says, I'm heading off anyway. Sorry for a brief visit. Work early and docs are on the strike. Of course, mate, yeah. Team are going to be stretched. Take care, mate. Hope work goes alright for you, and thanks for popping in. VG saying, honest wargamer on painting phase was more than enough honest wargamer for me. I look 50 by the end of this week. £7 a pint. That is heavy going, mate. Once it starts getting north of £5 a pint, I start to get a bit of a nosebleed. Tony says, I'm neither pro or anti-GW, just painting hobby random nonsense and give it away. The gaming aspect has never really appealed, as I don't do competitive or adversarial games, even struggle with solos. You know what, mate? It's just... life's too short to worry about the bad stuff, mate, is it? You know what I mean? I wouldn't say I was pro-GW or anti-GW either. At the end of the day, some of the games don't really gel with me. They're a bit more complex than I really generally like, but their models are fantastic. I think they make, if not the best, certainly they're up there with the best of plastic miniatures on the market, really. There are some other companies now that are making some really nice stuff, but I think for consistency and volume of stuff, if you're a painter, like if all you do is paint stuff, I think you'd be hard pushed to kind of like look over the stuff that they make. So yeah, it works both ways. Absolute liberty. I've got nitro taps in my dining room. I'll be round tomorrow, mate. Thanks very much for the invite. Clyde's waffle saying Guinness draft for the win. I love a Guinness, mate. I'll be honest. Mini review. These cans definitely taste different. Like they taste better than normal Guinness cans. And this, money well spent. I've been happy with that. So there you go. That was my mini review. Priorities. I'll spend money on minis than on clothes. I'm not going to do it, mate. But if I was to turn that camera around and you saw that wall, I don't need to be buying more minis, mate. There's no reason for me to be spending more money on miniatures. I've already pre-ordered the Star Wars Shatterpoint game. I've paid for my Conquest minis. I'm just waiting for them to be shipped out. I don't need to be spending more money on minis. Money well spent on the Guinness tap. Yeah, love a good gadget. Yeah, I'm really happy with it, mate. Clyde says, having to watch Disney Plus show it, I'd rather buy some expensive takeout. My hot take. VG says, we're going to have to find a nightclub in Birmingham for a night out. Do you know what, mate? I tend not to leave the expo. Like I tend not to leave the area around where the expo is, because there's all the hotels and stuff like that. There's last year we went to the casino while I was there and basically spent the evening eating and drinking in there. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff on site, mate. I'm pro bacon, can't beat bacon. Alex says the Canon Andy's painting challenge this month. Yes. VG says, who else is coming to Expo? Got to have a big BlackJack Legacy meetup. People don't want to meet me, mate. And yeah, Darryl saying they definitely taste better, mate. I definitely, I would say they're worth it, mate. Life's too short to drink bad beer. Frantic saying, I registered for my first gaming event coming in May and hope to play stuff I've been painting for the last year. Yeah, and definitely worth it. Take care, mate. Alex says, going to live stream your pile of shame, Andy? Absolutely not, mate. Do you know why? Because I'll be perfectly honest, because I'm actually embarrassed about it. I'm not one of these people that want to like, look at all the stuff that I've got kind of thing. Like, a lot of this is stuff that I've bought over years and years. I haven't really sold much stuff. I've just hoarded things. There's stuff where I've thought it would be a good idea to buy and then I've done nothing with it. There's stuff that obviously I've been sent to review and things like that just goes on the shelf. And if I'm honest, it's pretty disgusting. I should really, I've got so many like models built unpainted. I've got half built stuff. I've got boxes of new stuff. I've got some stuff that's been sent out to me till I take a look at, and it's still in stretch wrap and stuff like that. Like, it's still in the shrink wrap. It's not good viewing, really. So, you know, I wouldn't share it. If anybody came round, like if you come round for a game, Alex, I'd be happy to kind of show you what I have. But I wouldn't want to kind of put it. I don't want people thinking that it's like, it shouldn't be acceptable to just have like walls and walls of like shit that you're not using, basically. Starter sets as far as the eye can see, absolutely, mate, absolutely. Yes. Anyway, we should really talk about the main topic, shouldn't we? So, Am I going to clip it? I tell you what, let's do it just to, in case I change my mind. I'm not sure whether I'm going to make this into a proper clips video or not, but I haven't done one in a while, so I might do. But yeah, let's see how it goes there. So tonight's topic I wanted to talk about is AOS even a trash game, as Scott, the miniature maniac, said in his video. And I watched his video the other day, and it was interesting to see what he said about AOS in terms of the things that didn't gel with it for him, the things that he didn't really like, how long he'd been playing, like what was his kind of, I was going to say his pros and cons, but they were mainly cons really, and about how he felt about AOS. Now, I'm somebody that played AOS many years ago. I haven't played it in a long time, so it's not really my business to be kind of saying whether he's right or wrong, or whether I agree or disagree with him. There were some of the comments that he said from my experience of AOS. I've kind of felt the same way, and there's other parts of it where, with my experience of AOS, like things like the double turn, for example, I feel like it's less of a problem than maybe that he made it out to be. However, there was one thing, and the one thing he said in the video, and it was right near the end as well, so some people might not have watched all the way to the end. There was one thing he said that really gelled with me, and that's the thing that I want to talk about tonight. So I want to show you what that is.
Why do I play it? Age of Sigmar is the only game on the market that features large fantasy armies, and this is the kicker, has the highest percentage of absolutely excellent models in their range. Sure, I like this handful of models from Parabellum's Conquest, but there isn't an army's worth of figures I'm interested in. While I am a competitive player, I'm also a massive model collector and take a great feeling of pride in fielding an army that I am into aesthetically. Also, if I'm into the design of an army, I enjoy painting it that much more, which swells that sense of joy that I get from collecting a beautiful army, and that can't be understated. If I'm going to invest my time in painting a large army for a game of this size, which takes a long time, it's going to be one that I think looks beautiful and that I love, not necessarily because the rules are written well. Hint, hint, Mantic and Parabellum, I don't think I'm alone in this opinion.
So that was the bit of the video that I kind of got to, and I was like, actually, you know what? He's got a point. I think that there are a lot of people out there like that actually they fight with the rules of a game. They maybe struggle with list building. They might not enjoy certain aspects of the game, but actually maybe the game is not the most important thing to them. Maybe they really just, they love the models. They really want to kind of paint them, and actually that it's fine just to kind of get them on the table once in a blue moon and just give them a bit of a run out, because actually all you're really doing is wanting to show off these really sort of beautiful models that you've built and painted. Now, he's a far better painter than I can ever hope to be, and the stuff that he paints is just at a level that deserves to be kind of shown off, even when he's kind of painting just for his own hobby, even if it's just not for content or anything like that. If he's just painting in his own free time, then he's painting something that he absolutely loves. He's painting models that something gels with him, whether it be the theme of the army, the particular model, whether it's the idea of kind of playing an army of that particular kind of model, if you like. And like he says, if the theme gels with him, if it's something that he's interested in, then that's what he'll kind of do. Now, and I think a lot of people play games like 40k and AOS because generally they always use that same phrase of, well, I always know I'll be able to kind of get a game of it. Or maybe that's what their friends play, and maybe their friends enjoy it. What we don't know from the information that he said in his video is, what do his friends think about AOS? Maybe they absolutely love it. And it's something we chatted about earlier on in the stream tonight as well, is about sometimes like playing a game that maybe you're not like 100% completely in love with, but you don't play it that often, is better than having to paint models for a game that you like. Sort of, you might love the rules, but you don't really want to paint the models. It's something that's kind of washed over me over the last few months, where I've found myself with some games, and I'm not going to like name them games, I'm not going to kind of like sort of call things out, but there's some games that I've found that I love the rules, but when it comes to kind of painting a full army for that particular game, I don't really love all of the models, and I can't bring myself to want to paint models that I don't enjoy. I can't bring myself to buy models that I don't want to paint. And I think that's kind of where he's got to. And I think that's the point that that's the point I think where he has a point. And I think sometimes that often gets lost. Like, there's a lot of talk at the minute online about competitive players versus casual players and sort of tournaments versus narrative gaming and all this kind of thing. And I think the same thing gets said about sort of playing games and not playing games, whether you're a painter or whether you're a gamer. At the end of the day, this is not like a linear scale where at one end you've got like competitive tournament gamers, and at the complete opposite end of the scale, you've got sort of casual narrative kind of fluff gamers. Like, it's not a scale, it's not a measure, it's not one is better than the other. We're all just people who enjoy hobby, and we're all kind of different types of gamers. Everybody is right. Everybody should do the thing that kind of makes them happy. And I kind of get where Scott's coming from at the end of that video, when he's saying that basically he'd rather play a game that maybe has questionable rules, but he gets to put like a really beautiful army on the table that he's poured his heart and soul into playing. And yeah, I think he's got a point. What about you? Like, would you happily just play a game that you maybe didn't enjoy the rules for because you enjoy playing with the people that you play with, or maybe you really want to paint those models and just getting them on the table and playing those rules is one way to do it? Would you, as other people have suggested, say, I'm not going to play sort of a game where I don't enjoy the rules, I'll take the models that I like and try and find another game that I can use those models in, and then maybe have to try and convince other people to come on that journey with you? Or would you just decide to do what some other people do and just say, oh, screw the game, I'm just going to paint the models? Let me know what you think down in the comments. So, what do you think, folks? That's the question. What do you think? Clyde saying his last bit was what annoyed me. You can buy the minis and never play AOS rule system. Play them in dozens of other rule systems. You can, mate, but the problem with that is you need somebody else to play them with. And it's not the easiest thing to convince somebody to play this quite obscure, kind of maybe mini agnostic, only available on a PDF kind of rule set. Like, I'm not saying that those games are bad, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but it's sometimes quite difficult to be able to convince somebody, especially if they're enjoying playing AOS, to basically, what you're saying to them is, I know you like playing that, but I don't, so I want you to change to make me happy. That's where it gets difficult. If you're both not enjoying the game, I would question why you're playing that game at all. But if one of you is enjoying it, or your main group of gaming friends are enjoying playing that game, let me just head back over here. If they're enjoying playing that game, then sometimes you've got to make some allowances to basically either fit in with them, or you've got to go and find other people to play games with. But I think he does have a point in terms of, like, I think there are a lot of people continue to play 40k, even though it might not necessarily gel with them, or it might take a bit long to play, or they might feel like the game's moving too fast, because they absolutely love just painting those models, and they've been painting them for years, and they want to keep growing this beautiful army. So I think there is an element of what he's saying. I think it's a fair comment. Zeran saying, won't ever touch it after being the vehicle for the death of Warhammer. Life's too short, mate. Honestly, move on. Forget about it. Don't worry. Only positive feelings, honestly. Can you feel them? Can you feel them coming through the screen? Positive energy. Don't let the past grate on you. Don't let it drag you down. Vijay saying he makes a valid point about that. Jez saying, yeah, fair play, that's right. Mark Zielinski saying, use your AOS models to play Kings of War. What? On round basis? How very dare you? I think that there's an element though, mate, where like I said before, it really depends what other people are playing. Maybe he liked to play Kings of War, but he wants Mantic to make an army that he gels with as much as he does with the Warhammer Age of Sigmar models. He mentions Conquest as well by Parabellum there. I looked through all of the different armies that they produce as well to find one that I could feel that I would be interested to paint the entire range. There's some of the armies where I'm not a big fan of some of the models, and I don't want to, as I've said before, I don't want to start painting things I don't really like, kind of thing. And I know people would go, oh, but you can 3D print stuff, you can proxy stuff and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just nice to go, look, there's a range of models, I really like them, I get to just buy the ones that I like and not really have to go searching for stuff to have to substitute out. Sometimes it's just nice to have, like, to be able to just to do it that way. Zingbo says, it's the IP models that are GW's biggest strengths. Many people will tolerate GW's rules so they can play with their Space Marines and Chaos Warriors. Yeah, I think they do, mate. I think a lot of people do. And I think it's a case of, like, obviously there's things like one-page rules and all this, but I think genuinely it goes back to wanting to feel part of a community, wanting to play with what their friends are playing and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think there's many gaming groups where everybody's playing AOS, for example, and they all hate it. I think they'd have all moved on if that was the case. I can't imagine everybody is just sitting there miserable going, oh my god, not this game again. I can't wait to buy and paint this new model again so I can come back and play this game again that I really hate. I'd assume you get individuals who don't enjoy it but want to play with those groups. Zeren says, it's a point of principle. Life's all about whether you have principles and whether you stick to them, or if you're just willing to be another on the crowd. Yeah, everybody can have principles, mate. Colin says, so not for me. I love Mantic's Goblins. I would say Mantic's Goblins are particularly nice models, mind, and of all of Mantic's armies, I would suggest the Goblins one are probably the ones that have the nicest full range, but I think that's because a lot of them are basically have been a new plastics, really. VJ saying, that said, Mantic stuff's getting better. Still, if they just got a couple of the existing Patreon sculptors on board, they could elevate the level of their sculpt so much. I don't think that sculpts are the problems, mate. The sculptor is actually a fantastic sculptor, and he makes some really nice stuff. The problem Mantic have got is they've got a lot of old models in their range. Some of them are like the old resin models. Some of them are the old PVC models. Some of them are old plastics, back from manufacturers that weren't particularly good at actually plastic production. Like, if you see the stuff with their ogres, which is from a new manufacturer, you'll see that the sculptor isn't the issue. It's like the manufacturing process. But this is what happens when you're trying to do stuff as cheap as possible, which is what Mantic were famous for. Like, you then have to cut costs somewhere, and unfortunately, in the past, it looks like some of those costs have been cut by the production. Alex is saying, GW do have nice models, but saying everyone else needs to be as good seems unfair, as every other company have a fraction of their resources. PS, I think Parabellum's new sculpts are same or better than GW. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree, mate, with the new stuff. I don't think it's about saying that everyone needs to be as good, but there's no reason why. There are plenty of good sculptors out there, as we know. There's Patreons all over the place. So there's some good sculptors out there. There's good manufacturing out there. We're not suggesting that companies need to release models on the frequency of Games Workshop, but just that their range of models across a full army are just consistent in their quality and their aesthetics, I think. And that's not always been the case, because some companies, and I'm not singling Mantic out here because there's plenty of companies who make army scale games like this, their range has changed over time as their quality's improved, as they've changed the people that make them, as they've changed the manufacturers, they've changed the sculptors, all these kind of things. So it's not just about GW being bigger. Sometimes it's just about the consistency, and some of them have models that have been hanging around for 10-15 years and they're not the best anymore. That's kind of the mix of it, really. Matthew is saying, happy the love of the hobby is greater than the love of the game for me. Oh, happily, sorry. Yeah, I think it is for a lot of people, really. I mean, I wouldn't suggest that that people who just enjoy or predominantly enjoy the gaming side of things overall, they're certainly not the majority. I think the majority of people are into the collecting, sort of building, painting side of things, and the gaming is a nice addition to that. So yeah, I think most people kind of sort of gel with the hobby side of stuff. B. Davies is saying Age of Fantasy by one-page rules is miles better in my opinion. If you already have a collection but are sick of AOS, give it a look. It's free and can use your existing collections. Yeah, but again, who are you going to play against? That's the question. Clyde saying, play the minis you love and a rule system you love. I can use any GW mini, Malifaux mini mixed with Affinity if I want in Pult Alley. Yeah, I agree, mate. I think if as I've said many times, if you can find somebody to play with, or you just want to play solo rules, all power to you. Enjoy your hobby the way you enjoy it. Don't suffer a game that you don't enjoy. For example, if you really love playing with this group of people, but you really can't stand the game, find something else that you can do together. Find people that want to play the game that you want to play. If the game is that important to you, that's always been my ethos, if you like. But all I'm suggesting is that sometimes if you're only playing a game once in a blue moon, but you have fun playing with the folks you play with, it's not the worst thing in the world sometimes just to sacrifice, not the best rule set, but it's still decent, it's still alright. I don't get the impression that Scott hates the game. I think there is some part of it that he finds frustrating. He's not a big fan of list building, he's not a big fan of the double turn, but again, as I said before, that the double turn is something that changes over time when you've played more games. He's not a huge fan of the bloat as such, but I think that's true of any GW game. Once you know what you need, you don't really need to worry about the bloat so much. There's lots of things about it. Lazy Pirate Painting saying painted them and used them for Kings of War. Yeah, Florence saying I favour the model to paint first, and then the likelihood of actually playing them, and lastly the rule set. Yeah, I think that's more I was saying before me. I think a lot of people basically have the idea that they want to play the game, but actually they will spend untold more hours painting and building models than they ever will playing, and sometimes that's worth the trade-off. Sometimes it's worth the trade-off to maybe play a game that's not your first choice, but you'll frequently get a game and you'll play with the people you enjoy playing with. Is it better to play a game that you really love with somebody that you don't really enjoy playing with, or is it better to play a game with the people that you love spending time with? But the game's maybe not your favorite. If you hate it, fair enough, but if it's tolerable. Clyde saying that goes back to your earlier point. Find someone who also doesn't like the rule system. There are more than you think that are willing to try something better. It depends, mate. It's easy to say that, but when it comes to the more obscure rule sets, it's not that easy to find folks who are in a similar position to you. Some gaming groups really embrace playing those lesser known rule sets. Some gaming groups, if you I've been to gaming groups here in the Northeast who are very, very much GW centric, and that's all you will ever see played there. Now, if that's where your friends go, if you've gamed for years with people and that's where your friends go to game, does that mean you don't see your friends anymore? What's more important? That's the point I made. By all means, if one of your friends goes, I've had enough of this as well, should we try something else? Should we play something else with our minis? Then, everyone's a winner in that instance, but that's not always what happens. Tony saying, you know me, I paint what I like from whoever I like, make my own nonsense hobby projects, and don't worry about who made them. Here, mate. Andy says, I don't think it's worth worrying about. It's all about choice. No need to fall out about it. Yeah, I kind of agree, mate. It's not really worth worrying about, and that's my point really, and that's why I think the point he makes at the end is really that's the point for me that he's got a point there. Sometimes for him, the painting is obviously the most important part. He loves painting those AOS models. He loves the fact that they've got a range that he really gels with. Therefore, he tolerates, if you like, or he puts up with what in his opinion is a subpar rule set, because he gets to play with the models he loves with the people he loves playing games with. That to me is at the end of the day, everyone has to make compromises somewhere. If you're trying to talk somebody out of playing something else to playing what you play, you're asking them to make a compromise. That's the difference. Super Pokemon says, if I can't enjoy the rules, then it drastically affects my choices in game. Like earlier Kill Team, the rules were so much of a pain, I'd rather just play a 250 to 500 point game of 40k. Again, mate, I think it just depends who you're playing against. Ariel says, good thing I only play with friends and we all enjoy different games. I think if you could, it's kind of the best of both worlds, really, Ariel, is that if you have a group of friends who like to play different stuff, and it's like, this week we're going to play the game that I like, and next week we play the game that you like, you know, like everyone's a winner in that kind of situation, isn't it? Alex says, I think gameplay is more important to me than nice looking models. I'm more into playing though. Can't keep playing a bad game no matter how cool the minis are. See, you know what? I think in the past I would have agreed. However, I think my tastes have changed over time, and now these days I spend way more time painting models and spending time with the models and spending time with the background lore. I spend way more time doing that than I ever will playing the game. So for me, like, am I going to spend money on like a new army for a game that I don't enjoy? No, not at all. But if it was a difference between I can't get a game, I can't find anybody to play against, or I can play this game where I love the models, but it's maybe not the most favourite game kind of thing, I'd probably make some compromises somewhere. Coffee and Pistachio says, I believe Scott's close friend John is a huge fan of AOS as a game. I think who you can play with also plays a massive part in how we spend hobby time. I absolutely agree. I think it's a really key point, and I think it's something to. I think that like for I'm sitting having a Guinness here. Would I rather go to a pub where like the atmosphere is not great, you know what I mean? Like the beer is all right. Like I really like the beer. The atmosphere is not great, but it's dead close to where my mate lives, and I can go and I can go and see my mate there. The two of us can kind of go and sit and have a nice beer and have a good old chat. And it's maybe not the flashiest of places kind of thing. Or do I want to go to a really nice cozy bar where the fire's roaring and the beer's all right as well, but it's too far away from my mate. It would cost him a fortune in a taxi, so I'll probably have to sit on my own or hope I can find somebody else there who might want to have a conversation. I know which of those two situations I'm going to have a better time, and I would kind of liken that to kind of where Scott gets to at the end of his thing, is that basically he loves painting those models, he loves the entire range, and his friends obviously love playing the game, so he's willing to kind of to compromise really. Let's have a little look. This is scroll down to it too fast here. Let me just go back and catch up here. Dave's saying I use a lot of minis for D&D. I use any mini. I think D&D is very much a different kettle of fish. I think that's just like, it's not like people generally get D&D minis, and I think sometimes the minis are not the reason you play a D&D, are they? Colin says he admitted in a video he never even ever tried Kings of War. Yeah, and he admitted in this video that he didn't find an army in the Kings of War range that he gelled with enough that he would want to paint them all. So like that's probably why he's never tried it, like because he's probably very much driven by his love of the miniatures, and if he can't find like an army that he really gels with, then he's never found the energy to kind of go and play the game, because the miniatures are more important to him, and playing the game with one of his friends is more important to him. John says, I want it all. A fun game, good company, nice models. The one I wouldn't compromise on is the good company. But why is it always the newly painted model that dies first? Cleo says, I need more solitaire games, campaigns to justify my model collecting and painting obsession. But games you can still show off your stats to other people in a perfect world. See, playing solo doesn't really interest me. Like, for me, playing a game is all about that social interaction. And I really don't get the same sort of enjoyment from playing solo. If I'm going to play solo, I might as well play a video game, is kind of the way I see it. Clyde saying, yeah, people defending and falling back to playing GW rule systems are usually people that never try other rule systems. I wouldn't say he was defending it though. That's the point. He was criticising it. So Somblin says, yeah, life's too short to paint minis I don't like. I maybe can do it with a small warband if I have to, but not a whole army. That's exactly where I've got to, mate, as well. And I think, without sort of speaking for Scott, that's exactly what he's kind of saying as well, really. Zerin saying, positive vibes or video, but I have principles and I will hold the line. Otherwise, I would be a clown in the corner rebasing an army for the second time. Oh, yeah, that's off before, isn't it, mate? That's like 15 minutes ago. All I'm saying, mate, is I'm not asking you to play AOS. I'm just saying don't be bitter about what's gone in the past. You can't change it. All I mean is, I know what you're saying about having principles, but fine. Just, that's it then. Like have your principles, but don't worry about it. Like, don't let it grind your gears kind of thing. Sarah Kiss says, I think because AOS and Games Workshop in general is such a polarising topic, people mistake constructive criticism with just negative, hateful blubbering about either the company or the game system. Do you know what it is, sir? There's definitely a point in what you're saying there. People are either very pro-GW and any criticism is seen as a criticism of them personally and their choices, or people are very anti-GW and see criticism as maybe validating their opinions, or see any praise of a game as basically the complete opposite of what they believe. Most people sit in the middle and don't really worry about it, kind of thing. They don't comment on it, don't get caught up in the drama, kind of thing. But I think if you're on either end of the kind of love-hate scale when it comes to Games Workshop, because they're so big and because they're talked about so often, I think it just it kind of triggers a few people, doesn't it? Peter Dixon says, Scott has a good point. I'm one of those, buy the minis you love, but find the rules you like to use them on the table. And you know what? It doesn't work. You have to adjust what is played near you. That's exactly kind of like my opinion, mate. I think as much as I would love to be able to sort of have everything my way, you have to make some compromises in life, don't you? Jess says, I'm building a Kings of War army for mostly Mantic and GW minis. Few of the games I've had a mishmash of lots of companies. I'm currently painting GW Beastmen and some 3D print trolls for another game. Use everything you like in the games you like, but only if you can find somebody to play the games you like with. Mark says, I'm looking forward to Warhammer the Old World for the models, hoping the rules are good. I think a lot of people are, mate. People who maybe drifted away from the old world, obviously with the demise of the end times, and are hoping that it comes back with a vengeance. Mutton Chop says, play Warlords of Erewhon, small to mid-scale skirmish, use whatever models you like, alternative activations, fantasy battle style game. Which is fine, mate. However, I have never met anybody who plays Warlords of Erewhon. I've never seen it played anywhere. I mean, it's not that I'm looking for a game, but what I'm suggesting is that anything that is not mainstream, like even Kings of War, is more mainstream than kind of Warlords of Erewhon, and it's not obviously not the most sort of popular game in the world, if you like. I just think I think everybody should play the games that they want to play, but for me personally, what I'm saying is that sometimes you have to make a compromise, and sometimes if the minis are more important to you, which it seems like they are to Scott, and I think they are to me too, and you enjoy playing games with the people you enjoy spending time with, sometimes the compromise is the rule system that you play. In an ideal world, you'd have everything the way you want it, but sometimes that's not how life is. That's the point I'm making. Ryan Barry saying, better late than never. Happy Monday stream. Hello, mate. How are you doing? Chris Warden saying, play them grey and imagine them painted with whatever money you want every time they put on the table. Yeah, you can do it. Nothing's stopping you playing them grey, that's for sure. Jess says, I've played rules I don't like, but I enjoyed the games due to other folks at the table. Exactly my point, mate. Exactly my point. RG saying, friends will always win out over game systems. Yeah, for me it's got to be like the social interaction, really. Like, sort of, I mean, I know some people are just about the game and they don't really care who they play against, but like I've played some brilliant rule systems against people I wouldn't want to play against the second time. Do you know what I mean? That's not fun either. Where are we up to here? Cleo saying, maybe for me it can be enough to have cool lore to read. Has to be very cool lore, cool models, time to paint, a way to show off the painted models, and I don't need an actual game. Yeah, I absolutely agree, mate. A lot of people are like that. You don't necessarily have to play the game. In the same way, you don't necessarily have to paint the miniatures. Everybody should just do what works for them in their hobby. If your hobby is just playing the game and you don't really like painting models, like the painted police are not going to come round and tell you off. Some people will say, I'm not playing you because I only play against painted models, but that's them not compromising kind of thing. That's them being very, look, this is what I believe and this is the only way I want to play the game because it spoils my enjoyment. This is just about finding people that you gel with. This is why sometimes the people or the thing that actually, that's probably the one thing to not compromise on. RG says, I've got Final Girl Season 2 on the go now. Much prefer the thinking and decision making rather than having to rely on my dexterity with a video game. I think it depends, mate. I mean, Final Girl is more of a board game. I think I'm talking more about miniatures games. Like, for me, and it's different for everyone. If you enjoy it, then all power to you. Just for me, playing a game is very much about the social interaction. I enjoy spending time with other people. It's not a 15-minute lag, by the way, mate. I'm just catching up with the comments. That's all. Jez is saying, bye, Sarah. Take care. Coffee and pistachio as well. See you later. Jez is saying 5 leagues from the Borderlands and 5 parsecs look like good solo fantasy and sci-fi games. Mutton Chop says, no, that's the problem. You could just start a gaming club. Yeah, you definitely could, mate. You definitely could. Peter Dixon says the old world will never die, while Grognards still get Warhammer RPG to the table. I suppose if people are still playing Total War and all that kind of stuff as well. March toward done and sent. Time for bed. Thanks for the stream. Cheers, Ed. Take care, mate. Mark saying, I love the Kings of War community. It's a big reason why I play the game. This is what I mean about why people kind of like, the people are sometimes more important, and maybe that's the thing to not compromise on. Greg saying MINIAC's take is 100% correct in my opinion. I can't really comment on the chunk of it. Like there's a big portion of it which is like very EOS specific, and I haven't played the game in such a long time that it would be wrong for me to kind of say he's right or wrong, really. So I can't say I agree or disagree with him. But I just thought the comment at the end kind of almost just kind of wrapped it up a little bit, really. As in, sometimes you just, sometimes like you can't have everything. And Dave's saying, right, I'm off to get some sleep. Have a good one. Take care, Dave. Nice to see you in tonight, mate. Hope you're well. So yeah, that was the lively topic. Seems folks are very passionate about only playing the games that they want to play. I didn't think that was such a controversial topic, but there you go. Who knew? So what else has folks been up to this week then? Who's been painting? Who's been playing games? I see Atomic Mass Games have released some more information tonight as well about Star Wars Shatterpoint. I've not had a chance to read them yet. I've been busy doing other stuff, but I'll no doubt catch up with it later. I see it's about the combat mechanics. So, we'll find out more about the combat tree and stuff like that, so I'll be interested to read that later and digest that. Super Pokemon says, we can leave your friends behind. Yeah, you're doing the safety dance there, mate. Yes. But I mean, no. But the point still stands. I think like I think I would struggle to keep playing games with people that I wasn't really having a good time with, just because I absolutely loved the game. where I think I could definitely stomach playing a game that maybe wasn't my favourite. I mean, if I hated it, if I absolutely hated the game, that's one thing. But then I probably wouldn't have got to the point where I was enjoying playing with them people, because I wouldn't have been playing that game for all that time, kind of thing. Zeren's painting some wood elves. Nice one. Mark's saying I'm off soon to paint some models. I don't care too much about some models I don't care too much about to play in a firefight tournament at Adepticon next week. I got a bit like that with some of the firefight models, mate, to be honest. Clyde saying he's sick with COVID again, with the boy, not much done, catching up on YouTube vids I never seen. And yeah, Mark saying feel better soon, Clyde. Haxan says was going insane building meat trees for Warhammer Blood Hunt, so I'm having a break by painting D&D minis for fun. Nice one. Jed says when I got these goaty beastmen and trolls painted up, I'm making a board with a river and a bridge. There's a trip trapping thing to this. I like that, mate. I'm busy painting at them. So I've had a few games this week. I had a game of Marvel Crisis Protocol on, what day was that? Thursday, with my brother-in-law Jason. He'd been wanting to learn how to play, so we'd arranged a game of that. It was very much a learning game. We kind of cut back some of the rules, so we didn't have any of the like the tactics cards and stuff like that, and we kind of just, we didn't even play one of the missions really. We just kind of played hit each other, kill each other kind of thing, just so we could kind of get the basics of the game. But I had fun. I really enjoyed playing it. It was nice to get that back at the table again as well. So we played that on Thursday, and then on Friday I went to my local gaming club, had another game of Conquest by Parabellum. I played the Spires again. There's it's like a slow grow thing at the club at the moment, so it's starting off with 750 points. So I played a 750 point game. I just borrowed some models until mine arrive. I've ordered the new 2-player starter set, which has city states and nodes in it, so I'm looking forward to building and painting that when it arrives. But yeah, so I had a game of that on Friday as well. Really enjoyed it. My dice were absolutely awful. In Conquest, the aim is to roll lower, so 1s are good, 6s are bad. I've never rolled so many 5s and 6s in all my life. My dice rolls were atrocious. I got absolutely wiped off the board, but I still had fun. The guy I played against, it was his first game as well, so Daryl was kind of talking us through it, kind of teaching us, making sure that we were on track with the rules and stuff. But I find that the game's pretty, I mean, there's a lot of kind of complexity and depth in the list building and the different abilities and the upgrades and stuff that you can give your armies. But the rules themselves are pretty straightforward, and I quite like that. And then I've been painting this week as well. I've been painting my Fenrir, the Wolf of the End Times, the latest expansion for God Tier. I did a video a couple of weeks ago about Fenrir, or was it last week, explaining what she can do on the board. But I took some paint to her and her followers this week. So the followers are all finished. I'm about halfway through painting Fenrir at the moment. So yeah, once I get all those done, I'll no doubt show them off. Clyde saying 40k was like pulling teeth playing, even though I loved the people I played with. Drags on forever, not much social interaction, waiting for them and their million mini moves. I've never really played it, mate, if I'm honest, so I can't really comment on 40k. Bless says he's painting cowboys and prepping some steampunk bobbies. Rob Zung saying he's been playing Rangers of Shadow Deep, but right now switched over to Don't Look Back. I really fancy Don't Look Back, actually, mate. I just saw that they're kind of re-releasing it with a really nice hardback rulebook. The problem is they're just so expensive to get shipped to the UK. Mark Watson says he finished painting up the core box for Horizon Zero Dawn. Back to painting up some Oathmark. Have you played Horizon Zero Dawn yet, mate? I've heard mixed reviews about it. What's your thoughts? Jez is saying Rangers of Shadow Deep's a bloody great game. Peter saying just finished my first freehand banner design. Nice, mate. For his Slanesh Demons. Good company to paint with. Thanks. You're very welcome, mate. You're welcome back anytime. Blair says, what faction did you decide on for Conquest? I've decided to go with the city-states, mate. I really like that kind of that Greek aesthetic, the 300 kind of style of it, with minotaurs and a little bit of like mechanical sort of upgrades and stuff on them. And I like the models that's coming out in the future for that faction as well. Although I must admit that I'm quite sort of, the Nords are a close second as well. So I'm not sure I'm going to kind of like sell the second half of the starter box. I think at some point I'll probably build a second army, a Nords faction, and maybe have a couple of armies to work on. When I was doing the video, the editing for the video I did with Leo from Parabellum, it forced me to kind of go through their entire range of models when I was getting like images for to put in the editing of the video. And that was when I really kind of narrowed down which factions I was like sort of interested in. Like, there's some models that I'm not particularly keen on. I think they're nice quality, but they're just not my kind of style, not my aesthetic. So it was about narrowing it down to the ones that I kind of I thought I would enjoy painting, basically. And I think that's why City States has come out as top, really. Zeren says, need to find a local club. Are you saying you need to find a local club, Zeren? Super Punky Man saying, nice. I just got my new Hive Tyrant to convert into a huge Gene Stealer Patriarch. Just a showpiece. But I look at my shelves and realise that makes 6 Hive Tyrants I've bought in total. Wow, mate. RG says, I've got some Hands of Dominion done. Some final girl in downtime. All the painting gears away at the moment. May get it out for an ogre. Yeah, I find that having my painting stuff like available to hand to be able to sit and paint like even just for 30 minutes or something makes it so much more productive. Alex says, how you finding the list building for Conquest? I know you're not a big fan of making lists. I hate making lists, mate, if I'm perfectly honest. I find that because of the online list builder makes it much more simple. I haven't really gone into depth to see what everything does, so I'm literally kind of building lists of like the right points as opposed to the strength of the abilities or anything like that. At some point, once I kind of know the game a bit better, I'll probably start like looking into it in a bit more sort of analytical detail, if you like. But at the minute, I'm just putting the cool models together as lists, really. J-Bot says, glad other people have issues with Firefight minis. Working on some Brockers and my Forge Fathers, and let's just say it's been less than ideal. Yeah, I've said this before as well. I'm not a massive fan of the PVC models. I find them a pig to build and to clean up and stuff like that. Yoakum said, I had a game of Mansions of Madness, but my wife hated it. So less minis and more boardish games when we play from now on. At least she tried it. Yeah, we played, what was it? Oh, I forget what it was now. But it was a board game, but with miniatures, and my wife hated that as well. We didn't play that anymore. RPD, hello mate, says, I've been painting some Fallout Wasteland Warfare. Nice one. Super Punky Man saying his first metal tyrant's just a normal tyrant. The fine cost was turned into Cthulhu. Third was the turn into Swarmlord. And the last two were Starship Trooper inspired Arachnid Warriors and Hoppers. Nice, mate. Moxie and Horizon Zero Dawn's quite good. It's just there's not a huge amount of content without expansions. And the campaign was usually about one scenario too long. Ah, okay, mate. I think you should stop buying Hive Tyrants. I agree, mate. RGCM regarding dice, I find the more desperate I am, the unluckier I get. Yeah, I was absolutely garbage when I was rolling dice the other day. Joachim says, I'm also painting Fallout minis at the moment. The Institute, what's you painting, RPD? Haxon saying, Nords are probably going to be my first Parabellum army. I found a local shop that sells them. Yeah, I quite like the Nords mine, I must admit, mate. I was kind of torn between, after I'd gone through all the ranges and looked to see which models I like, I was torn between City States, which were probably my favourite, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of City States players kind of like knocking about soon because they're the new faction and all that kind of stuff. So that put me off and made me look at other stuff. Nords were probably second because they came in the starter box and like it was it meant I could buy the City States ones as well. But the Old Dominion as well. The Old Dominion were a close third, and I must admit when I struggled to get a hold of the starter box, if I could have picked up an Old Dominion starter box, I might have started with them. But as it happens, like all the starter boxes are being changed soon in May, I think it is. So it was just as easy to wait for a new shipment of the two-player starter sets. Let's have a look here. A bit of chat backwards and forwards. People having a bit of chat backwards and forwards. York saying he's having a post-apocalypse year. He says Fallout, Gaslands, and waiting for Zone Wars. Nice one, mate. Cool. I like to hear it. So, what's in the plan this week? So, obviously, we're streaming now. Tomorrow, I have a full day of filming. I have some visitors tomorrow to the studio. As I said, that's why I was getting all this ready. So, we're filming something tomorrow. I then have to get that edited because it's on a bit of a tight time scale. So, I'll be spending the rest of the week editing that video, I think. And then Friday, I'm out for my wife's birthday. So, that's Friday. I'll be taking Friday off. What else have I got planned and lined up? I don't think I've got any games lined up at the minute. I might potentially have another game of Marvel Crisis Protocol at some point with Jason. I think he's wanting to play again. We just need to try and find some time together. I'll be finishing off painting my Fenrir model, so I'm looking forward to doing that because it's coming on really nice at the moment. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I should be getting my Conquest stuff delivered, so then I can crack on and make a start on that because I think they were due to arrive. I think middle of March. I think was the resupply of them into the UK. I think so. Yeah, so I shouldn't be waiting too much longer for them. Clyde saying you need to show off more of your MCP on the Discord. I think I posted a picture of them a while ago. I think I haven't shown any off in a little while. He said I just got gifted Wolverine and Sabretooth and Quicksilver Scarlet Witch boxes. I've painted the Wolverine model. I haven't painted Sabretooth yet. And I haven't painted Quicksilver or Scarlet Witch yet, actually. I'm still in the middle of painting. I started painting the Star-Lord model and then got sidetracked painting something else. So it's sitting on my shelf in my office upstairs. So yeah, I need to get back to that. I haven't painted any. I haven't bought any Marvel minis in quite some time because I've got a massive backlog to get through. I don't need to spend more money on them just at the minute. But I did buy the 2022 card pack because I saw somewhere had that in stock and they're quite hard to get a hold of, I think. So I managed to make sure I got one of those. Right. I think, folks, that's probably as good a place to kind of start to wrap that up. Jess is saying, I'll zap you at some point about next week if you fancy a cuppa. Could have a game or something if you fancy. I'll double check, mate. Yeah, I'm not sure what's in my diary, but if I've got time, mate, we'll certainly sort something out. And like I've got this editing to do, and I've got a specific deadline when I have to get it finished. So yes, I'll be doing that. Murphic Bear says, have you played Zombicide Undead or Alive? I haven't. I've actually never played Zombicide, mate. Never mind the Undead or Alive. I almost backed that one at Kickstarter because I quite like the Wild West kind of theme of it, but I decided just to hang on, and I didn't bother at the end of it because I think it's one of those where you get sucked into the Kickstarter where it's like the price keeps going up because there's more and more stuff to buy. But yes, take care, folks. Alex, enjoy your birthday, mate. I'll no doubt drop you a happy birthday message on Wednesday. Cleo as well, take care. And thank you for dropping it in. And Clyde saying, someone needs to get Andy over for a game of Zombicide. And VG saying, the Marvel Zombies Hero Resistance is great. Glad to hear it, mate. I might pick that one up at some point, actually, because I do like the Marvel stuff as well, obviously. And Martin Webb, good evening to you as well, mate. And thank you for dropping in. So, take care, folks. I'll no doubt be about in the Discord and stuff this week or in the Facebook group. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do click subscribe. If you haven't liked the video, give it a thumbs up. It really does help me out. And if you haven't checked out the videos that I've released over the last few weeks, please go back and watch them. So take care, folks. I'll see you next week.